Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Sunday, the 29th day of December, 2024. It is the fifth day of the Christmas season, the fifth day out of 19 days of the Christmas season. And today, on this Sunday, we remember the Holy Family. We celebrate Holy Family Sunday. The origin of this feast, actually it is. It's not necessarily so limited, but feast of the Holy Family. The origin of this feast goes back to Benedict XVI of the 1920s. Again, the upheavals after the after the First World War. The upheavals after the First World War, where basically monarchies, fall apart, which were always very conducive, to the papacy, because papacy is a monarchy, and so being around other monarchies is a good thing. But these monarchies falling left and right, being replaced by republics, you have the rise of communism, all kinds of things like that. And the republics not being very friendly to the church, as was probably good for these republics, because the church was not very friendly to many of the lesser people. Just the nobles and everything else like that got good treatment, but sometimes other people did not. So these republics not being very friendly to the church, again, Benedict begins to worry that the nucleus of the church, the family, is going to fall apart, especially with communism and everything else like that. So the Feast of the Holy Family becomes something inserted into the calendar in the 1920s. Devotion to the Holy Family goes back to the 13th century, 14th century, somewhere around there. So there's always a sense in honoring the Holy Family. Now it becomes something to do within the calendar. The thing about this is that it was supposed to follow Epiphany. So it should follow after the 7th of January, and I think it was supposed to be between the 7th of January and the 13th of January was when this feast was supposed to occur on a Sunday that fell in between those dates. It gets moved up in a reform that happens in the 1960s, and then the full reform that happens in the early 1970s after Vatican II, places it at the Sunday that's right after Christmas. And so here we are, the Holy Family Sunday, again, because we're talking about the family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and Jesus being born. So it's appropriate, to celebrate that like that. The thing about it is, again, how do we understand this day? It is not a day of competition. It is not a day of stark comparison between the Holy Family, which seems to be perfect, and every other family, which is not. That is a terrible way to look at this. It's a terrible way to understand this feast. Do not look at this feast in this way, because that's not that's not what it means. The thing about it is that we have to understand, again, that this Holy Family was not really always, again, if perfection is holiness, it wasn't perfect at all. You have doubts left and right, wondering what's going on, inability to comprehend, what's happening. This child being born, all these kings bringing these gifts, these angels and these shepherds all of a sudden appearing, Joseph wondering if it's all worth it, doesn't know if he wants to stay with it, decides to stay with it anyway. All of this becomes something that, is endemic, to what this family is experiencing. Upheaval after upheaval. They're not living in a bubble of perfection. They're not living in any kind of bubble whatsoever. And during the Gospels, especially in Mark's, we get many times in which Mary comes with other family members to take Jesus home because she does not understand what he's doing preaching when he should be at home with the family business. If it's carpentry or contractors or whatever it is, it's like Jesus is supposed to be doing that. Why is he out there preaching? So the misunderstandings and the non-comprehension of what's going on is all a part of this family in its upheaval and what have you. Today in the gospel, we have this wonderful remembrance of Luke in which, again, Jesus being lost and left in the temple or finding his way to the temple and staying there. Again, if this is a perfect family doing perfect things, then Mary would have known that Jesus was not among them when they were traveling back to Nazareth after some stay in Jerusalem for whatever occasion, whatever reason it was. But they don't. And it's a full day before they recognize he's not with them and not in any place in the caravan. Then they return to Jerusalem, and they look for him for 3 more days. So in the midst of all this, and then they find him in the temple where, again, he's asking questions and being precocious and learning wisdom from all these scribes and scholars and whatever it is. And again, the thing about, his response to Mary, it's like, why would you be looking anywhere else than to find me here in the temple where I belong? Mary would have slapped him across the face. Again, it's like little naughty Jesus should not be this way, should not be so promiscuous or precocious and whatever it is that he would find himself, not able to tell his parents where he was, or not think about their own fears for not being able to find him. All of this, becomes even more complex when you're wondering, for 3 days, even more, basically this child is where? It's like, again, an adolescent, perhaps, or a young adolescent, let's say, who's feeding him? Where is he sleeping? 3 days. Again, he's amongst these old scholars of the law. They're not really tending to his needs as a child. What's that? All these holes in this story. It's like he had to have eaten and drunk. He's not. They're not in some kind of bubble there of sanctity, learning about the law, where they don't need to sleep or to eat. It doesn't say that. But it doesn't also tell us who was taking care of Jesus in these days that he wasn't with Mary and Joseph. A whole bunch of things. So do not look at this story in any way, shape, or form, or this day in any way, shape, or form as a comparison between my family and Jesus's, because again, it's not meant to be comparisons. How do we understand what holiness then is? Well, holiness basically, again, it goes always back to the understanding of trust. It understands, again, how much do you trust, each other? How much do you trust, what God has given you to help you become what it is that you are meant to become? It may be family by blood. It may be family by friendship. It may be family by circumstance. But if those people who are around you are helping you to become what you are meant to become, are nurturing, are caring, are loving, are supporting, well, then there is holiness. It may not always be perfect. It may not always be right. It may be filled with all kinds of contradictions at times. But as long as the care and the support last, their holiness is. Because that seems to have been the hallmark or the anchor, of this Holy Family. To, while not understanding anything that's going on, to continue to trust and to never stop trusting. Because out of trusting comes faith. And out of faith comes love. And out of that love comes the presence of Christ, that light of the world in our midst. A continued continued blessed Christmas season. St. Francis and people of God, may the Lord, as always, give you his peace.